What am I supposed to do? Oh, that's not Klaus's body.
What?
That's
Whose body is that?
that's Kumatora taking a nap. Hello, friends, lovers, and all the rest of you people. This is the second episode of the podcast that Invisible Gamer is now calling Classic Game Club, and we're here to talk about the second part of Mother 3. I'm joined once again by my best friends in the world, and I don't mean that in the Michael Scott way, I hope, because that guy didn't really have any friends. They are Austin Clark
Hey everybody.
and Triple S himself, Seth Scott.
You call me Triple S, but then didn't say my middle name. It's funny.
No, I did.
Good day.
It was silent though.
Oh yeah, it is a silent middle name.
Seth Silent Scott.
Well, anyway, thank you for joining us once again. I hope that you liked what we did the last time. We really didn't know what we were doing, and we still don't know what we're doing, but I think we're doing okay. So, I guess before we jump right into a discussion of what happens in the next chapter of Mother 3, which is chapter 4, we're going to talk about something that we didn't get to talk about last time due to technical difficulties, which is the battle mechanics of Mother 3. And Austin, I'm going to let you lead the discussion. So, Austin.
All right, yeah. So Mother 3's battle system, it is kind of your standard JRPG battle turn-based system. But the big unique trait is the music battles. Basically, in each battle, there's a tune playing in the background, and if you match the beat correctly, you can attack up to 16 times.
Now, when you say there's a tune playing in the background, do you mean like there's a single battle, like a couple different battle songs throughout the game, or more than that, or what? For people that don't know.
That's what's pretty cool. Normally, you get like a boss theme and then a regular battle theme in a lot of games like this. Mother 3, there is a huge variety of battle tracks, and some of them are actually very tricky to get the tempo down. Some of them kind of have like rests and different breaks in the beats that you have to follow along with. So they get pretty tricky, but it's a system that constantly keeps you involved and makes it so you're not just slamming the A button or the B button to get through a battle. If you really want... Yeah, go ahead.
I was saying it really rewards practice too, and a little bit of a musical ear helps, but maybe not, because Seth apparently, I think, has had some trouble with these, right? Are you getting any better, Seth?
Yeah, actually, I have improved since the first, I guess, podcast. Where in the first 2 chapters, I just pretty much stopped, or I never really was able to achieve that. And I've gotten to a point now where certain enemies that have, I guess, easier songs or easier tempo to match I can pretty much get it every time. But in the last chapter, I didn't really get too many of them, or I would get one or two extra hits maybe randomly, but not more than that. Yeah, it's been really challenging for me, and it's been a little frustrating, but also I enjoy a good challenge, so it's interesting.
Have you been playing with headphones or just right
No,
from the
just
system?
right from the system. Um, and yeah, I have a huge interest in taking a traditional battle system and giving it some kind of uniqueness, as we've been calling it. One of my favorite things about Mario RPG is pretty much the timed hits, kind of similar to Mother 3, that same thing where you can do much more damage if you time your attacks, and it's far more difficult in Mother 3 than it was in that game. And I think that supposedly, I guess you can, get a lot more or have an easier time fighting some of the bosses that I've also been having difficulty with if you do master this technique. But I just can't seem to do it.
Yeah, it sort of gets way easier with the bosses if you can. But,
Yeah.
there are still some bosses, like I think the last boss of Chapter 5, I didn't really... I mean, part of the problem with that boss is that he has a shield half the time, and so that immediately blocks combos. But, yeah, you basically have to master it later in the game. Otherwise, you basically will just have to level. You'll have to grind for hours.
Yeah, and there is an item where if you use it, it makes the tune easier to hear. But man, it rarely works for me. I don't know if it's just me or if it's something, but
the hypno mask, you mean?
Yeah.
You mean that
Yeah.
it doesn't work to put them to sleep so you can hear their...
Yes.
Really?
Yeah, I'm having a really hard time using some of those items where some bosses it seems like it's once I figured out that what it did, it was like the secret to beat that boss.
Yeah. So just to real quick, since you started talking about the items, we're talking about Duster's thief tools.
Correct.
Yes.
Is about 8 of them or 6 of them, I think.
Yeah, I think something like that. I think he's the only one whose special abilities are intrinsically linked to success in battle.
Yeah.
But yeah, Duster is this character who is a professional thief, and so he has all these tools like wall staples that he can use in the game, like during the adventure, I guess, to climb up certain walls, or I don't know. I guess he has other thief tools, but I don't know if we use them besides in battle. But there's like a tickle stick that is supposed to make them laugh, and I think that lowers their defense. And there's the hypno mask, which the idea is it's supposed to put the enemies to sleep, which then lets you hear the heartbeat of the enemy, which is what you're actually supposed to be hitting. So, for instance, there might be a song that sounds like do 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 do, and then if you put the enemy to sleep, the heartbeat will be like do 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 or something like that, and that's when you are supposed to time your hits to get the combos.
I feel like there's some characters you can't put to sleep like bosses, where you just have to kind of really figure out the tempo.
I think you may be right.
It's tough. It's a challenge, man. It's not like an easy it's not like once you figure it out, you can do 16 hits every time either. I feel like, it's because there is tempo changes within certain songs too.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are many songs where it's literally just dot 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 dot, and it's so easy to hit every single time. And but there are other songs where it's like dot 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 dot, and but you have no idea,
right?
When it's...
I'm sure it's one of those things where if I went back to play chapter 1, I would kind of be not a pro, but I'd be much better at it now. That I think the songs get harder as the game goes on, and I'm assuming they do.
Not necessarily. It just depends on the enemy. Because one thing you may have noticed is, how every enemy has its own song?
Mm-hmm.
You might have noticed that if you are approaching an area where there's different types of enemies, if you attract one first and then the others join, you'll get the song for the one type of enemy. But if you attract the other one first, then you'll get that one's song, even if the other one joins. So it's sort of like even approaching enemies on the field You have to be strategic about it because there may be one song. Yeah, there may be one song that that you think that you can master real easily, and another one you can't. And that's what I do all the time. Like I try to get only the enemies that have the straight, easy rhythms.
Yeah, I totally realized that in the last chapter, and always tried to touch the hammerhead shark guys, and then because I have their song down, I could do like 16 hits every time. But the lion, I can't do.
Well, you know.
Anyway.
There's Game Shark codes to get 16 combos every time. Just saying.
Oh, really?
But you'd have to buy a Game Shark.
Ooh.
That might be hard. I don't know. Might be hard to come by. So what else about the battle system?
I guess maybe it's kind of linked to just the tempo, but I feel like there's difficulty in any game is, it's definitely a very tough thing to balance, I think, getting it so it's just hard enough yet not completely frustrating. And I've been running into some difficulty spikes, especially when you get to boss battles, and that's been a little tough. I'll get through a section or an outdoor section and then part of the tower or something, and I won't really die. I'll have some tough battles here and there, but because the game has a pretty good save point frequency. Like it doesn't have a tremendous amount of distance between the little save frogs. But I'll get to a boss and then I'll just die a handful of times and have to just keep retrying the boss where it seems like it's a definite spike in difficulty.
Yeah, it seems like, I mean, having recently played Earthbound, I felt like that game I was always running around just barely making it, and then I'd fight a boss that was just as hard. And this game, it does feel like the environments are a lot more reasonable, but then once you get to a boss, it kind of just hits you with that same kind of challenge where you need to be prepared. You need all your guys at max life, or you're probably going down.
Do you know what's been really helpful for me?
The handbook
guide.
The
Porky Army Survival Manual. I've actually been using that to sort of refresh myself on the events of the chapters to write the show notes, but yeah, it's back in print right now, but I think it's like $30 for a hardcover. So
I think that part of it also is that the kind of item management and the way you purchase items and get the quote unquote money in the game is interesting. It's not as, I don't know, this whole system is a little off to me, and not in a bad way. It's just different and something I'm not used to. Where
it's the same system as in Earthbound.
Yeah, but I feel like in Earthbound, the item shops were more streamlined. Like every time you went to an item shop, you could buy health items, the magic PP items. But this time, sometimes in Mother 3, I'll go to a place and they won't have anything that heals or gives me magic points or something like that.
Yeah, I feel like that stuff is hard to come by. The magic.
It's really hard to find. Yeah, and
you guys saw the instant revitalization devices, right?
Yes, yeah. I've been using those every chance I can, for sure. But it's just a little, I don't know, I think that also adds to that difficulty spike too sometimes, where there's a couple items that I wish I could buy and then they're not available.
One of the things that always gets me is forgetting to divvy up my items between the characters.
Yeah,
which is just on my part because Earthbound was the same way. But I'm always, Lucas is always filled to the brim with items, and then he'll die, and all my other characters have one health thing and nothing else, and an antidote that they don't need.
Boney pretty much always dies for me.
Yeah,
Boney. Yeah,
it's so punishing to have a character die. You can't run anymore, and the items to revive them are few and far between. Up until this last end of chapter 5, it was hard to get the little seed items.
I love that these games let you break the KO timing if you can finish the battle.
That's the best. Yeah,
that's so awesome. Basically, if you haven't played the Mother games, when say a character has 80 hit points and an enemy attacks them for 100, basically their life will slowly tick down to 0.
Right.
So, and if you can finish that battle before it ticks down to 0, then you're safe. Your character won't be KO'd. And I really like that.
And did you guys know that you can guard to make it roll to make it
slower.
slow down.
Yeah. I realized
yeah.
that at the
Yeah,
boss for chapter 5, just the last boss we played, because he was just destroying me, and I realized that it goes really slow if you're guarding.
Yeah, didn't I tell you, like, I think yesterday or something, you better guard
Yeah.
when he's charging or something like that?
It's one of those things where the first time I played him, it's kind of the obvious boss thing. He's like, oh, he's charging up, and then so, you're like, well, you might as well, I'm going to try and guard this next time, and then he just obliterates everyone. But yeah, and then you're like rushing to use all your health items or really quick before their ticker runs down to 0, and like, oh, it's tough. But
yeah, I think that boss is the one that I always dread fighting, even though, like, I said this last time, but I think it's like my 5th time playing the game, and so I'm pretty, I know it like the back of my hand now, and usually the boss fights are like not even a thing to me. Like, I don't even stress about them, but this one every time gets me, and I think there's one other later in the game, but I can't talk about that without like a major spoiler for you guys. So, and it's not what you might be thinking when I say that.
Does it involve praying?
Nope. Like I said, it's not what you might be thinking. Well, did you guys have any other points you want to talk about before we start talking about the sort of events of this part of Mother 3?
No, let's jump into the next chapter.
The music continues to be awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty great. The music in chapter 4, which we're going to talk about right now, some of my favorite in the whole series. So jazzy. So chapter 4 picks up 3 years after all of the events that happened in the beginning of Mother 3. So the town has started discovering its love for technology, and Klaus, I'm going to call him by his true name, Klaus now, not Claus. I'm not going to try to Americanize this anymore. Klaus has disappeared, and 3 years have gone by, and you wake up alone in an empty house as Lucas. And I think it's a pretty powerful entry into the next chapter because we don't know what exactly has happened in these characters' lives over the past 3 years. Again, we do know the mother's dead, the brother's missing, and presumed to be dead by most of the people in the town. And the family has had just a lot of growing up to do during a time when Lucas and Klaus should have been doing the exact opposite. They should have been just living the lives of little boys.
Playing with dinosaurs.
Playing with dinosaurs. Yep.
Yeah.
What are your guys' thoughts on that?
It is pretty powerful, like you said, because Lucas himself was the crybaby of the group, and to see like 3 years later it starts up and he's just kind of by himself, and his house looks like torn down, which you find out later it's been shot by lightning. It's like you're like, man, what has this kid gone through?
I think it's a great time in the game to kind of do that, and you wake up in this town that you were just starting to kind of get to know, and it's kind of changed, not overnight, but in game time you wake up and it's 3 years later and there's so much different. There's all these places that look like they've been kind of torn apart or blown up or something like that,
or have had the good sort of sucked out of them in some way or another.
Yeah, and the small town kind of closeness of Tasmili has changed, and you're kind of questioning it as you run around as Lucas and go look at all these spots you just thought you knew well, and they're all modernized, I guess, so to speak. And
I've talked about my own mom and the way that I relate to this game in those terms before, but something that is interesting about the way this chapter opens is that it opens with, if you look in the mirror, Lucas has this flashback to his mom and just a time when things were good with him and his brothers, family, everybody was happy. And there's a couple of areas in Tasmili that you can go to and get those. If you go visit Inua's grave, that's the one time you'll see Flint this chapter. But he'll have another flashback there. But, Lucas is haunted now. He's haunted by memories of his mother. She was part of every good memory he has, and now he's living in this world without her, but also one that really isn't any kind of world for a child to be part of, as far as I'm concerned. Like, it's not like, it's not like it's become this destitute place. It's just, as you said, all this progress that the town has made has insulated people from each other.
It's almost like the town has grown up, so to speak, and like lost the innocence of like a childhood like town.
Yeah.
I don't know, they're trying to correlate the two things. Like it does kind of feel like that. Whereas some adults, kind of lose that hope and joy and life of childhood as they grow up. It almost feels like the town kind of does the same thing.
Yeah.
Well, so we don't know what's going on with the family, but we do. So we don't know what's going on with Klaus. He's obviously still missing, but we do discover that the reason Lucas wakes up alone is that Flint spends pretty much every waking hour in the mountains searching for Klaus. What do you guys think about that? Is he in denial? Do you think Klaus is really dead? Do you think it's a literal death, a figurative death? Do you have any insight into the way Flint's reacting? I realize none of us here has lost a child. God willing, we won't. But
I mean, I always thought Klaus was dead from the beginning, when you kind of see his body, but Flint or the characters that are up on the cliff don't see him. But it was just like a move to show you, the viewer, his body. And I thought it was actually really well done because it shielded it from Flint, because he doesn't know where his kid is, and you see Klaus, and I presume that he died, but they didn't want, it would be too much for Klaus after he just found out his wife was murdered.
Do you think he's dead?
Do
you still think he's dead, I should say?
I mean,
as of chapter 4, as of the beginning of chapter 4, 3 years later.
As of chapter 4, yes. Yes, I do.
I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced.
Austin, is that because you're a father and you want to hold out hope that he's alive?
No, I don't know. It's just, I feel like it's just the way the game is playing out, and kind of how, I don't know. I guess maybe it's the hope thing, but like as far as Flint goes, I feel like, I don't know. There's got to be a reason why they didn't. They showed you the body, but they didn't let anybody find out or find that body. So Flint, as like a father and someone who just lost his wife, like he doesn't want to give up hope, and he probably feels like he failed at protecting his wife, and he has to keep going until it's for sure that like Klaus is gone. And for some reason, it just feels like he can't be dead. There's got to be something else to this tale.
Yeah, well.
But yeah, I still think that doesn't take away from kind of what Seth was saying. You shut your mouth.
No, I do. I think you're in denial. I think that... I just thought it was funny the way you said that. No, I think you're in denial. I think... and I don't mean that like you're a fool. I think you don't want to believe that he's dead. That's a normal reaction.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know. That's how It sounds crazy, but that's how I react to people that die around me. Everybody does that, you keep thinking you're gonna.
It's a natural reaction, yeah.
So let's talk about Tasmally a little bit.
Let's get into it.
So yeah, in the 3 short years that have gone by since the end of Chapter 3, the town has transformed into a sort of arch-typical American suburb. Trains, cars, frog cars.
Even the frogs have cars.
I loved seeing that little frog driving around for the first time. I was like gonna chase him and save my game. It was great.
And he's driving on the road too.
Yeah.
He's not just like he's like driving in this endless circuit. It's like, where is he going? Is he just looking for people who might ask if they can save their game or get money? Since the frogs are now the ATM machines, it's kind of really weird. But then I don't know. The money is called dragon power, whatever that means.
Yeah, I don't understand it, but
it's almost like it's just an idea. Where they ran long time ago, they ran out of the coins that Facade gave them, so they're like, well, let's just have an idea and we'll call it dragon power. And I don't know, we'll get it by rubbing frogs' bellies or something. But basically, technology is everywhere in Tasmally. The people that have accepted this new way of life seem content in their distractions.
Mm-hmm.
Those who have taken a stand against the town's so-called progress are met not only with constant targeted lightning strikes from some unknown source that we know is the pig masks, obviously, but even worse, these people that aren't in line with everybody else as far as progress, they're ridiculed and belittled by everybody else in town, who all seem sort of, I guess, just completely blind to the fact that everything that was good about their lives before is now gone. And I think it's one of the saddest things about this game.
Especially when we spent so much time talking about like the bond between the citizens of that town in the first few chapters. It's like a complete 180.
Yep. It's sad, yeah, for sure. I mean, I wasn't happy when I saw the roads, and I missed the old town like instantly.
Do you guys have any life experiences that are similar to this? Like where you say you have a place that you went to a lot when you were a kid, and you go back as an adult, and it's completely changed?
Yeah, I used to live north of Albuquerque, where I live now in New Mexico, and it was a much kind of just small town type of thing, and
one horse town.
What's that? Yeah, one horse town. Yeah, I mean,
it's a one horse town, and now there's a brothel on every corner.
Yeah, pretty much. But no, there's just a bunch of mini malls and stuff where there used to be just nothing, and it's not as huge of a makeover as Tasmally is, but still, I'm like, oh, this is just all so fake and weird, and it is an interesting thing when you go visit places you're used to and see this kind of urban sprawl that's just kind of ugly and cookie cutter or whatever, and it takes away from the the personality of the earth or the world or wherever you are.
What do you guys think about progress in general? I mean, obviously we rely on technology for a lot of things that we never had before, in civilization, and it's not necessarily a bad thing to have all these miracle machines, basically. But what do you guys think about it, and how it changes people, and obviously in relation to this game?
Well, you wouldn't be talking to your two best friends right now, that's for sure.
Shut up, Austin. Technology is the devil. I don't need friends.
Oh,
No, I mean, I think it just goes to show like there's good and bad to everything, but you can't just overflow yourself with it. Like, yeah, in Tasmile, people are addicted to these happy boxes, which are are basically television sets, for
Or maybe they're computers. Maybe it's like an internet
yeah,
box. Because they also seem to have. I mean, I know I was saying before that they're TVs, but they also have giant flat screen TVs that aren't pink and they don't hum.
yeah. I mean, it could be a number of things, but I think it's pretty easy to look at those things and kind of relate to our world and like think of them as TVs or computers or something. And
Or anything that any little thing that draws you in, addicts you, and then keeps you from the outside world.
yeah,
right.
and then I mean these people, it seems like they've let that consume them, and in the end it kind of just it's tearing them apart. It's tearing their society apart, regardless
Yeah.
of the progress built around them. And you can kind of take that and look at it in real life, or our lives. Who's to say Mother 3 is not real life? um,
Mm-hmm.
Well, on that note, I do want to actually bring another example
yeah, go ahead.
with my own life, which is that I find it really interesting that you pick back up with Lucas in a time when, after the death of his mom, and suddenly his community is just completely consumed by this technology. And it sort of reminds me of, I guess sometimes I tell my family that that I'm glad my mom wasn't around for the rise of social media, and I think it makes them angry and uncomfortable. But like, I I'm friends with a lot of my childhood friends. Their moms on Facebook. I don't know where all the dads are, but I'm friends with everybody's mom on Facebook, and it constantly amazes me how Facebook has turned these people that I looked up to as a child into these like virtual slot machine obsessed fools. And maybe that's part of growing up. You get older and you realize that most of the adults in your life were really only ever adults in the sense that they're older than you and they're not really wiser or smarter. But yeah, every time I play Mother 3 and I get to this chapter and I see everyone staring at their happy boxes and nobody is talking to each other anymore, it reminds me of the fact that my mom used to make things.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was a kid, she would make scrapbooks and photo albums, actual physical objects with her hands. And
Yeah.
um, I'm just glad I never had to see her with a Facebook account or an Instagram or Twitter, because I feel like, I don't know, she was really creative, but I feel like she might have turned out just like the rest of my friends' moms with their Facebooks and just sort of done all that stuff online. And um, I don't know,
Candy
I
Crush.
feel like, yeah,
Uh,
I mean, again, these um, all due respect if you're listening, moms of my childhood, but these are people that I would never want to associate with now
Yeah.
if they hadn't been such important parts of my childhood. And
Sorry, Mom.
yeah, is your mom listening?
No, probably not. But she's playing Candy Crush right now, I bet. Or some slot machine game. And I'm just shaking my head.
I just always get these invites to play games with them or whatever, and it's just like I'm not doing that
Yeah.
ever.
Well, and speaking of the distancing yourself from the adults or the elders, I think there's another aspect of this new Tazamili that we wanted to address too, right?
Well, yeah, and it actually is sort of the opposite side of this attitude that I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Of as you get older you devalue the wisdom of your elders, um, because I think is it in the same spot as Wes's house?
Yeah.
There's now like an old folks home. There's a nursing home, and all of the older citizens that nobody cares about anymore basically are in this this destitute, dilapidated building. It's basically a prison. Like, some of the rooms that they live in have holes in the floor, or they have like chains on the wall.
It's leaking.
It's all nasty, and it's a terrible building.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever been more depressed by any site in any video game.
Yeah, it's not nice walking in there, and especially going into those rooms. There's just talking to the elders in those parts. You just feel sad, and a couple of them go off on some weird tangents that are a little awkward and like disturbing.
I like.
Yeah,
you're talking about the guy that
like Mike
that talks about. Is his name Mike? The guy that likes the pretty nurse.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like that guy.
Yeah, but it's just, I mean, it's not that I didn't like him. It's just, I was just like, I've been in these situations before when like you're kind of around someone you don't maybe know, and they start talking about stuff, and you kind of think like, I hope I'm not getting associated with what he's saying. Really, I'll listen to what you're saying, but I don't really agree with you. And
for people who are listening and haven't played Mother 3, there's a character in this nursing home who his own grandchildren never visit him, and he gets really excited if you lie and pretend that you're there to see him, and he gives you some money, I think.
Yeah.
Some spending money. I think he says don't tell anybody, but then he starts talking about how things aren't really all that bad because he has these pretty nurses to take care of him, and he names them, and one of them pops her head in the room and says, she says something like, that's called sexual harassment now, Mike. and he just makes this comment like, it's a really scary world that we live in now. Which I completely feel for him. Mm-hmm. I really do. At the same time, I don't know, it's such a complicated issue because women, I think, don't really want to be ogled all day and treated like treated like an object, and so yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's an awkward situation, like Seth said, and Seth does not want to be seen as sexist.
Yeah,
that's why he doesn't hang out with. That's why he leaves old people to suffer at the nursing home by his house.
Yeah, pretty much
in Albuquerque. He says, I can't associate with that. Anyway, what else about Tasmally?
I liked in the old folks' home that the frog was also an old folk. I thought that was funny.
He's like in a wheelchair, beard, right?
Yeah, he's got a beard too.
Yeah.
He's like, I could still shave like the rest of them.
Yeah. Except he obviously, that's what's funny about that joke, where he says that he could shave with the best of them or whatever, because he's got, obviously he means save, like, because he's a save point, but also he's got this really long beard.
Yeah.
He can't shave, or he doesn't want to. I don't know.
Did you guys go to Alec's home, by the way, before Alec, the grandfather of Lucas and Klaus?
It's all destroyed, right? Yeah.
Because Alec's in the
he's in the old folks' home, right? Yeah. Yeah. That's right. First,
I didn't actually run up there, but I figured something happened to him. To his home when I found him there. I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah, if you go up there, it's just a pile of blackened, sticks, basically. Mm-hmm. And it's really sad because you get up there and the first thing that happens is you recognize, oh, this is where I played with the Dragos, and this is where I had the fight with the mole cricket, and because you don't actually go back there as Lucas ever unless you take this little side trip and go up there yourself, and it's kind of a long walk. It's so all these things come rushing back, and then you're like, oh, this is really sweet. This is a really special place, and then you walk up just a little bit more, and the house is destroyed, and it's just another one of those really like heart-wrenching moments in this game for me, anyway. But maybe you guys will check it out next time if you ever decide you want to play the game again. If you don't hate it by the time we're done talking about it.
That's just one of the things that's really cool about this game is they add so many little things like that for you to discover, and it makes exploring worth it. Whereas, plenty of other games, if you take a left and you're supposed to go right, you're gonna find a dead end or just more battles.
Or you're gonna go to a town that you were before, and everybody's gonna be saying the same things that they were hours ago.
Yeah, and this one actually, creates little. They might not be huge or revolutionary, but there are like little special scenes and stuff that happen, or dialogue trees, and that's pretty cool.
Definitely.
We've just been talking about Tasmania and the ways that it's changed, but there is actually some momentum. There's some story momentum, which is that there's a rumor that there's somebody in a band at this nightclub that looks just like Duster. And if you go talk to Wes, who's in the nursing home, he asks you to go look for him. So that's basically your reason to leave the village. And so that's when the modern adventure of Mother 3 really begins, and the modern day adventure, I should say, because really chapters 1 through 3 is just kind of all in the past. Everything else going forward is the present. But on the way, a couple of interesting things happen, and I'd love to hear more of what you guys think about the next encounter with a Magypsy, Ionia, who you meet in a hot spring up in the mountains while you're walking alone with your dog.
Mm-hmm.
What happens there?
Good.
Something happens in the water. It's not really shown, so it's up to the user preference what happens. I like to think that I was just given a new ability within the game, and nothing weird happened at all.
So you're in denial.
Ionia teaches
you how to use
Lucas
Psi.
How to unlock Psi, but Lucas basically has his back turned the whole time.
And Ionia's naked, by the way. You find the clothes of Ionia down at the bottom of the ladder that you walk up to reach this hot spring.
It's a very awkward scene. I don't think there's any ifs, ands, or buts about it.
I googled Ionia Lucas let it happen because I was trying to remember if she actually tells him to let it happen.
Yeah.
But if you Google that, you'll see many interpretations of what's happening, or questions. What happened with Lucas and Ionia in the hot spring? How did Ionia unlock Lucas's power? Basically what we're implying, if you haven't figured it out, is that it seems like there's some inappropriate touching happening, or worse. Again, this is why I think Nintendo will never bring this game out in the
America
West.
The thing is, though, I feel like you can easily change it, like, to where it doesn't. It just doesn't seem as awkward, because really the screen goes black, and then there's just a couple little dialogue bubbles.
Yeah, I don't know. I hear what you're saying, Austin, about how it'd be easy to change for the West. But one of the things that I actually appreciate about this game is that we're actually talking about these things.
Yeah.
Even if we're just kind of snickering about it and not really weighing in on how we feel about it, it's still something that is getting us to have a conversation about it.
Yeah.
And changing that, dumbing it down for the West, like, yeah, I'd buy it, especially if it was on 3DS because I prefer handhelds. But I probably would not. I would probably just continue playing my, you know, original version.
Mhm.
I was gonna say I mean, uh, depending on your interpretation of what happened, regardless of that, it's interesting that's that would happen that way, and it would unlock an ability for Lucas that, for all intents and purposes, is one of the best things he can have on that adventure. I feel like that's kind of an interesting topic right there. It's just like he wouldn't have been able to go on this journey if whatever happened didn't happen.
Well, but the default name for the most important ability.
It's love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey now.
So in a way, it might be suggesting that it unlocks his ability to love,
Mm.
which again brings it back to maybe something weird happened in the water. Maybe we've been talking about this too long. Maybe we should move on. Do you guys want to talk about the factory at all, or should we go straight to Club Titty Boo?
Yeah,
I didn't like having to work.
Yeah.
I wasn't a fan.
I thought it was interesting that they are suggesting that children should work.
Yeah, slave labor.
Yeah.
Child labor.
No, not child labor. There ain't no slaves here.
Yeah.
Other than the
Claymen were, yeah.
The clay robots, I mean.
Yeah, it was.
Sorry.
Do you guys want to know a secret spoiler about the clay robots?
Sure.
They're made with Klaus's DNA.
What?
I just lied.
So I was like, that is a stretch.
Like a stretch like Clayman?
Mm-hmm. Stretch Armstrong.
Well, you have to go to this factory and push robots around a little bit, so they'll give you a pass to go to this club on top of the mountain, which is this really jazzy music club, basically. I don't have a lot to say about the club. Just that it is one of my favorite parts of the game. But for me, what makes it great is the music and the characters that you meet up with there. And I really like this kid-like man, dog-like dude shtick that they do at the beginning.
Humor
It
is
pretty
still
funny.
just spot on. It never dies down, and it's just one of the best things about the game and the writing. It's constantly making me laugh.
I feel like the bouncers outside were inspired by Big Lebowski or something like that, or maybe not Big Lebowski, but I don't know. Whenever I look at the big one, the neckbeard guy, I think of
Jeff Bridges,
not Jeff Bridges.
John Goodman.
Yeah.
Yeah. Walter.
Anyway, I don't know. Yeah. But anyway, yeah. So you've gone to Club Titty Boo to hear this band called the DCMC because you are investigating a rumor that Lucky, the bassist in the band, is actually Duster.
Mm-hmm.
So, what happens in the club, dudes?
You wait for the band to play, and they're pretty jamming. I like their little set. Or I guess you see their encore. You miss their set. Um, and then you have to make your way backstage through kind of the I guess it's kind of like the attic or the I don't know what do they specifically call the area that you're in when you're the kind of dungeon part of the club.
I don't know, but it's the
The
rafters.
rafters, yeah, that's what it is.
It is the
Yeah.
attic. You're walking around on the rafters at one point.
To find to make your way backstage to meet the band and see if Duster is indeed Duster or if Lucky is indeed Duster and see if you can find the egg you're looking for.
But you meet somebody else there too, named Violet.
Oh right,
Yeah, who's
you meet
actually
Violet, princess,
Kumatora.
and she's cool. She looks all fancy.
She looks like she's wearing like generic female alien costume from the old Star Trek, like the original Star Trek series.
Oh, that's funny.
That's what I see. Or something from the Jetsons.
Well, she's normally a tomboy, so she doesn't know how to dress like a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she's also wearing her like special club titty boo outfit. So.
Yeah.
So Duster is Duster, actually.
Yeah. He's still not 100% sure at the end of chapter 4. He's in his mind he's still like debating it kind of. Duster, that is. He doesn't know 100% who he is, but he ends up going with you after the band leaves it up to fate, and he ends up joining you on your journey.
It almost seems like he doesn't just regain his memory when he sees you. He notices like, yeah, I kind of don't remember what happened past 3 years ago. Maybe I should go with these guys to figure it out. And I thought that was kind of like an interesting way to kind of develop the character. It wasn't just a cliche like, oh yeah, I'm Duster, let's go back with you. Like,
right.
You could definitely tell there was...
I am the prince of the realm and I will save my kingdom.
Right. You could definitely tell there was a relationship between him and the band and stuff, and it's not easy making the choice to leave or not.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that Seth said the band leaves it up to fate, because do they really? Doesn't
they give you hints. They want
the head
him
of
to
the
go
band
with you.
The head of the band basically tells you
what
move to, because the way that they decide is you have to beat every person in the band. There's 5 of them. You have to beat them all at rock paper scissors.
Yeah. But it's easy. You can't lose.
You can't lose because, like, if you pick the wrong move, one of them will sneeze and be like, "Oh, I need to do over," or something like that.
Yeah.
And the very last one is like, "Listen to me closely, do rock or whatever."
Yeah.
And yeah, but that song that they play for him is one of my favorites.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really great song.
So let's. I think we're gonna take a brief intermission here to listen to that amazing song.
Kick out the jams.
Okay, so that was the DCMC, and we're back. We're going to talk about Chapter 5 now. So, first of all, after you guys left the club, anybody go back to Tasmally? Visit Wes in the old folks' home?
Nope.
No.
I have never done it either, but you can. And there's I guess there's a funny little exchange between Wes and Duster where you think maybe because he's been missing for 3 years that there might be like this, emotional reunion, but apparently it's not really the case. It's more Wes being a dick again. But I think you get a thunder bomb out of it, so there's that.
Some things never change, guys.
So most of Chapter 5 is just kind of an extended chase scene.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like there's a lot of subtext or anything. This is one of the least interesting chapters to me, which, it's fine. Like, it's a good opportunity to grind a little bit if you need to. And
You learn some new abilities, psi abilities, or you learn a handful of them, actually.
Quite a few, actually.
And it's one of the longest chapters, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like maybe they felt like they had front-loaded the game with so much story that maybe they wanted to give you an opportunity because you have such a big area to run around in at this point. Because again, it's a chase. It's almost like a mini road trip because you actually have a vehicle. You have like
the pig bean,
pork bean.
Yeah, pork bean.
Yeah.
Pork bean.
But one thing that's interesting is that you see the pig masks all confusing Lucas for their commander.
Yes.
Which is obviously a pretty clear nod to the fate of Klaus because Lucas and Klaus are twins. So, did you guys have any aha moments there? Anything like that?
No, I mean, I still thought / think Klaus was dead. So I didn't honestly put that together at all. I just thought that, I mean, these pig mask guys are kind of goons. Throughout the whole game, and they're kind of the bad guys who are kind of easy to deceive, those stereotypical kind of things. And
they're also not really terrible people if you talk to them.
They're...
Most of them are just basically obviously they're doing terrible things. Like, you can't say a Nazi isn't terrible.
Right.
But a lot of them are just doing what they're told because,
Well, and some of them, like, if you see one somewhere, you talk to him, sometimes they're like, oh, I'm not going to turn you in. And they'll, like, talk to you for a second about something, and they seem pretty mellow and nice ultimately when they're singled out. But yeah, I honestly did not think of Klaus. I just thought that there was obviously something or someone, that was going to be revealed or something. But I didn't know what it was. Still don't.
What about you, Austin?
No, I had no idea. I'm very bad at
You have no idea, you said?
Yeah, I like the idea that they were mistaking me for a commander didn't ever come into my head. Like, why? It was just, I felt like, okay, maybe the game's trying to spoof something that I don't know, or maybe it's just one of those goofy mother things where that's all over the place in the writing and stuff. So it was just one of those quirky things to be like, oh, isn't this kind of goofy and like humorous right now that they're mistaking him for the commander?
Yeah, that's ultimately what I was pretty much thinking. Yeah.
Well, not much else to say about that, I guess. Did you guys do any exploring at all here before you went up the Thunder Tower?
I did go. There's one section when you can kind of go all the way back to the left, and I think you find some items, equipable items, and you can kind of go back into this like the sewer pipe type area that you were in the earlier chapters, and find some save points and one of the revitalizing machines. But I also found, and I think when you go back that direction, you find this mother mouse. Who says you can find all of her children, and I did not find them all, but I found a couple of them.
I don't know if I've never found that, or if I haven't, because it sounds familiar, but I definitely haven't found that part, that mother mouse, at the last few times I've played the game. Did either of you guys find Leo?
No.
Who was Leo?
He's a guy that's in a cave and he's surrounded by 8 presents in a circle.
No,
No.
I was looking at the guide though, and I came across him, and I was like, oh, I missed that guy.
Yeah, he's just this funny guy that is really into himself. He like is talking about how cool he is and how all the ladies love him and how he can't have the presents, any of them, because they're all gifts from ladies for him. They're Leo's presents. But if you talk to him enough, he'll be like, okay, you take one. And no matter which one you open, is this sweater that you get that's got like an L on it or something. It's got his initials on it, maybe 2 L's, and it's equipable. The stats aren't. It's pretty much terrible, but it does heal you every turn a little bit. But it's like a sweater that one of his girlfriends made for him.
It's funny.
There's also that little pit stop area that has the P Cafe. Did you guys go in there?
Did, yeah.
Yeah, I went in there.
I mean, I assume P stands for poison because everybody inside is just kind of loopy and.
Yeah, it's all weird and like destroyed in there. Kind of. It's like a.
Yeah.
And the music is kind of like
it's
off.
Yeah.
Like it
And
sounds.
they tell you not to run because you're gonna kick up mold spores if you try and run in.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
funny.
wow, I gotta get out of here.
Yeah, you actually can't run in it. It won't allow you. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's I think the bartender, she tells you, if you go talk to her, she says, please don't walk back here, you'll kick up, the spores.
Yeah.
So we start climbing the Thunder Tower, which is obviously what the Pigmask army has been using to destroy the homes of the Tasmiliers that don't want happy boxes. And you see a couple of interesting things in the Thunder Tower. And before we get to the main interesting point, one of my favorite things is the Fierce Pork Trooper with the huge collection of DCMC merchandise. And I'm going to go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but it's funny if you look at all of his collection, like his posters and his little toys on his on the shelf. It's like he has action figures of each one of the band members of the DCMC, and he, if you read the descriptions of all the items, it notes specifically that every collectible he has at least one extra in storage. I think.
Yeah, it does say that.
And it just reminds me of. I guess you guys probably haven't gotten into collecting as much as I have, but when you collect video games and lots of things, but when you collect video games specifically, you meet lots of people who basically hoard items like that, and I can't really comprehend why, like where they will have multiples, just to have them. Like I was in a thread on Nintendo Age last week where this one guy was like, I bought 3 Legend of Zelda Link Between Worlds 3DS XL bundles, one to play, one to keep unopened, and one to have graded by the VGA, which is the Video Game Authority, which is basically the BS company that has helped to raise the price of retro games. Like
they sound so evil.
They are, though.
Like the NWO in WCW wrestling.
The only thing the VGA does is artificially inflate the prices of video games and make money off people who are stupid enough to pay them hundreds of dollars to seal their games. But anyway, this guy, with his 3 different copies of the exact same thing, he was complaining because he'd bought like 4 Majora's Mask new 3DS XL bundles, and he said he wasn't going to sell any, but he's complaining because Best Buy and GameStop canceled most of his orders. And I was just like, what about everybody else that wanted one of those that can't get them because people like you buy 3 or 4 of these for no reason?
Yeah.
And then there was another guy in a thread who posted a picture of a cardboard box with 6 identical unopened Link Between Worlds bundles. And it's like, I don't know what's wrong with people. I collect stuff. I know like how some people feel about how many 3DSs I have, but at least I only have one of each type.
That guy could give me one of those bundles because I really wanted one, but couldn't afford it.
But But yeah, I thought this guy was. I don't know. I know I just kind of went on a tangential rant, but I do think the commentary on collectors is pretty hilarious, and I think it's going to go over the. I think it probably goes over the heads of most people playing because all of us game collectors are really just a bunch of man babies
Yeah.
that don't realize when we've become
But I mean,
a joke.
that collector mentality comes into play in the actual gameplay, which I thought was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's true because when you fight this fierce pig mask, you can basically just whip him into submission really easily by showing him a DCMC pamphlet or basically any DCMC merchandise if you've collected it. Did you have any, Seth?
I did. I had the
The
one
pamphlet.
pamphlet one. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you use it during battle?
I did not.
Oh, he never attacks
Yeah,
you.
here's the thing. I died against him the first time
I can't believe
because
I can't believe you guys. It's so obvious.
Well,
here's
honestly,
the thing.
I'll tell you why I didn't use it is because
Because you were gonna try to sell it on eBay and you didn't want to bend it.
No, it's because I feel like I've had like a bunch of items and I just like never they just weren't working on anything, and then I was like, well, the DCMC stuff was in the last chapter, and so I just sold it like an idiot.
Yeah. No, I mean it is true that you can go into that fight without anything, and if you don't hang on to it, you will lose the chance to do that. But yeah, you basically you show it to him, and he gets like
jealous.
he gets jealous the whole time, and he won't do anything.
Huh.
He basically and then eventually he'll snap out of it, but it works every time. You just show it to him again, and he'll freeze up, and yeah, you just wallop him.
That's
Here's
awesome.
The thing.
I love
I
that.
thought if you just had the stuff equipped, then he would have like automatically been weak against it. So
Yeah.
like I put the pamphlet. I think I
You
had
made it your weapon.
I made it my weapon on I think 2 characters, and then I think I had like the shirt or something as well. So I'm going through the whole fight, smacking him with this pamphlet, and it's just not doing anything.
It took like 3 hours.
And then I think when I had one guy left, I went into the item screen and like picked.
You used it,
and I'm like, oh, that's what I was supposed to do. Duh. And then the next fight, yeah, I whooped him.
Well, I can't remember if there's any contextual items like that affect other bosses that way, but you know, maybe you guys will keep that kind of thing in mind going forward.
Definitely.
Well, beyond the DCMC collector and some annoying robots and a sort of Donkey Kong-esque construction site, there is one very interesting room in the Thunder Tower right up near the top, which is the playroom. I want to know what you guys thought about that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely it was a weird room to go into after being in this kind of very not playful tower, and then you get into this room that's just full of like toys and like a bathtub sauna hot tub thing, or not sauna but like bathtub hot tub, and
well, it's actually like a wading pool basically, isn't it? Isn't it like I mean, that's how I look at it. I see it as one of those cheap little plastic
I guess
pools you put on your lawn for your 3-year-olds.
I was definitely confused by the room for sure, but I think kind of similar. I think Austin's put it in a good context earlier. Just like I was like, oh, this is just like some kind of weird humor that Mother's doing, at like putting the juxtaposition of this like really kiddie room in this like tower of
death.
Yeah, and I just kind of thought it was funny until and I didn't think anything of it. I was like, oh, well, here's a save point. I'll go in this bath. I'll go to this vending machine. And then I think the yo-yo puts it in context.
Well, did you also look at the jukebox?
Yeah, the jukebox plays some familiar tunes.
Oh no, I didn't do the jukebox. I clicked on some other items, but
Remember yesterday when I said check everything?
yes.
I mean, obviously you can tell where this is going because you were about to say you looked at the yo-yo, but the jukebox starts playing music from Earthbound.
And not just one song. There's a few songs that it plays from Earthbound.
Yeah. So what were you gonna say about the yo-yo, Seth?
Well, I instantly put that together as being Ness's yo-yo, or at least a call out to Ness and Earthbound. And then once you look at it, you have to fight this crazy little robot girl.
Yeah, the maid.
Who I instantly died against because I was like not healed at all. So that was kind of frustrating. But yeah, it's she calls it. I think she calls it Master P's friend yo-yo, and so I instantly thought of the rapper Master P, and that was kind of funny. But once I got past that, I realized that it was kind of a call out to Porky and Ness. Not necessarily 100% know why. I know in the last discussion, Michael kind of alluded to Porky in a couple different ways, and obviously the pig masks and Porky and stuff. But it definitely piqued my interest in what was going to be revealed, hopefully soon, in the story.
Yep.
Yeah, that whole room is basically like a shrine to Earthbound. So
Yeah.
once that kind of clicks, you're like, oh wait,
Yeah.
are these worlds connected?
It's definitely it's a shrine to places in Earthbound.
Yeah.
It's basically a shrine to Porky's youth.
Mm-hmm.
Porky from Earthbound.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like Seth said, it definitely piqued my interest on where this is going, and you know, if we'll see returning faces from Earthbound, or if in some way this is connected, or if not. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I think
happens.
The one other thing I think that, at least in my mind, I put together was there's a that I did check was that there's a teddy bear, and I think in Earthbound, like you have the teddy bear in your party at one point.
Yeah.
It like it's like a character. It's one of your party members. It doesn't really do anything, but
like a dummy character. Basically.
Yeah.
Takes some damage.
That was the one thing besides the yo-yo that I was like, oh, that's a total call out to Earthbound. Yeah. And then you go on your way to the boss of the chapter right after that.
Yes, you do.
Electric Man.
Yeah, I hate this boss.
Yeah, he sucks.
I want him to go to hell and die.
I don't think I died against him once. I think I beat him the first time. Yeah.
That's cool. Did you lose anybody?
I don't think so.
Huh.
But here's the thing. I stocked up on a ton of weapon items. So I was pounding them with stuff, and then I don't know.
I ran out of magic points, and then I died.
Yeah, I definitely ran out too, but because I didn't buy any extra recovery items, and that's what I was telling Seth to make sure you stock up on on that stuff. But I just barely made it, and that's pretty much always what happens with me in that fight, because I forget about how tough it is, and I forget what you need, the things you need to bring with you, and I always just barely make it by the skin of my teeth, where everybody's health will be rolling down slowly, and finally I'll get him, and I'll just be like, yes, no more stupid Thunder Tower.
Yeah, totally. Agreed.
But after the boss fight, there's one more really important thing that happens in this chapter, which is that you encounter who they're calling the Masked Man, I guess. But he's well, what do you guys think about him? He's the
I thought he was the commander that they were calling you.
Yeah, he's the commander.
Okay, because he kind of is wearing a similar outfit that they give you when they give you like the commander clothes. Yeah, and kind of allude to maybe Facade being out of the picture, maybe not. At least he slips on one of his own banana peels like a doofus and falls off the tower. I'm hoping he's gone because he sucks, but he's probably going to come back.
The Facade that we all love to hate is definitely done.
He is a Facade. It's kind of funny.
Well, yes, he is. But yeah, you won't have to deal with
Thank God.
with the banana eater anymore. But yeah. So that was chapter 5. Do you guys have any closing comments on chapter 5, or should we just wrap it up and save the rest of the discussion for next time?
I'm very curious. I think I'm more, not that I wasn't excited to play chapters 4 and 5, but I'm kind of into the story at this point, maybe a little bit. I'm just really excited to see what is going to reveal, because the last 2 chapters, well, you did learn a good amount about Tasmania and such. It was kind of the story starts to, puts you on this path where you feel like you're going to start figuring more and more stuff out, but you're kind of just battling guys and getting your party together and like you said, being in the modern day part of the story. And I think some big reveals are going to happen. I think it seems like they are, but I don't know, maybe not.
Well, chapter 7, this is kind of an interesting back-to-back. Chapter 6 is the shortest chapter by far. It takes about 5 minutes. But then chapter 7 is the longest chapter in the game. So,
well, I'm excited to play them.
Yeah, it's funny if you look at chapter 6 in the guide. It's just a picture. That's the entire. And then it goes to chapter 7. But anyway, we'll save that for next time. Thanks everybody for listening again. We really hope you like what we're doing, and stay tuned in a few weeks maybe, for our closing analysis and discussion of Mother 3.